So, you sent this over about Qwen2-VL and you want to know more about it, huh? Well, get ready because we're going deep on this one. This is AI that can practically see in a whole new way. This is way more than just another image recognition tool.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this model handles one of the biggest problems in computer vision, and that's resolution. Think about how we see, right? You could zoom in on the details of something or just look at the whole scene, no problem.
Yeah, it's something we do without even thinking about it. But is that a hard thing for AI to do?
Oh, it's a huge challenge. Most AI is stuck analyzing images at just one resolution. Imagine like trying to understand a giant, really intricate painting through one of those tiny, tiny peepholes.
You would miss so much of the picture. You'd see little bits of paint, but not the whole masterpiece.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this Qwen2-VL uses something they call naive dynamic resolution. And this is really different. It doesn't try to like force every image into the same box. It adapts to the size of the image and how complicated it is and figures out like the best way to process it.
So it's almost like this AI has this, I don't know, like built-in adaptability. It's choosing the right lens for every image. It analyzes the image before it analyzes the image.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. And the research shows that this doesn't just make the AI faster, it actually makes it much more accurate. It can pick up on these little details that would just get lost if it was shrinking everything down.
Okay, so it's not just seeing more, it's understanding more. It's like this AI has a deeper level of visual comprehension.
Yeah, and that's super important, right? Because it means that Qwen2-VL can actually deal with like real-world visual data. And we all know real-world data, it's messy, comes in all shapes and sizes, and being able to adapt the resolution like this, that's what lets it work in those real-world conditions.
It's like this AI can tell the difference between a Van Gogh because of the brushstrokes, but also appreciate the whole painting at the same time. But there's more to it than just resolution, right? The research also talked about this MROP, which honestly kind of sounds like something out of Star Wars.
It does, doesn't it? But it's actually a pretty clever way to solve another big problem in computer vision. Understanding where things are in visual data, like spatial relationships. You know how text is linear. It's just like one word after another. But the world isn't like that. It's three-dimensional, and things are happening in a certain order.
Oh, that's a good point. So like text is a straight line, but vision is like this whole symphony playing out all at once.
Perfect analogy. And that's where MROP comes in. It stands for Multimodal Rotary Position Embedding, by the way. And this is where things get really interesting. This is what helps Qwen2-VL not just see what it's looking at, but where things are in an image. And then in a video, it can even understand how that position changes over time.
Okay, that's really cool. So it's not just seeing a basketball game as like a bunch of random pictures. It's like actually understanding how the game flows, like who's passing the ball to who, where it's going.
Exactly. Is getting those dynamics, the relationships between things, and how they exist in both space and time. And that's where those benchmarks you were talking about come in. Qwen2-VL isn't just analyzing, it's actually understanding. Like, the study gave this example. Imagine you showed Qwen2-VL a picture of a bunch of blocks, like a kid's toy blocks, with numbers on them.
Okay, I can picture that. Just like a random jumble of blocks, different colors, some have numbers. What happens?
So this model can tell you not only what color each block is and what number is on it, but it can actually describe how they're arranged. Like which block is on top of which one's to the left, stuff like that.
Wow. So it's really processing this visual information kind of like how our brains would, right? Like we see the blocks, we see the numbers, and we just instantly get how they all fit together.
Exactly. It's not just seeing these isolated things, it's understanding the whole context of the image.
And the fact that it can do that across all these different languages, the study mentioned that it's especially good with Chinese, Japanese, Korean. That's wild. Is that connected to the whole multimodal thing?
You got it. Multimodal basically means that it's processing different types of information at the same time. In this case, it's visual info and language. And the research shows that Qwen2-VL is really good at handling these like languages with more complex writing systems. The kind of technology that could be huge for breaking down language barriers. Imagine real-time translation of like signs, documents, even someone's messy handwriting, no matter what language it is.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about the possibilities, but
Yeah.
I want to bring it back down to earth for a second. That research paper, it got pretty technical. Are there any like concrete examples of what this AI can actually do that would, impress someone who's not a computer scientist?
Besides, understand your ridiculously specific coffee order.
Hey. That order takes skill, all right. But you're right. What makes this research so groundbreaking? One thing that really stood out to me was how it can handle those like visual word problems, the ones we used to do in school.
You mean like the ones with the charts and diagrams where you had to figure out how many apples Johnny has after going to the store?
Yes, except this isn't elementary school math, right? The study talked about it solving like college level math problems all from looking at an image. It's honestly kind of showing off at this point.
Well, it goes to show you how adaptable this model is. It can handle straight-up text, images, diagrams, even super complicated equations all within the same system.
Mm.
But what's really cool is that it can take information from like a document, like a chart or a table, and then actually USE that information to like answer your questions or even do calculations.
Okay, so we're talking about an AI that could like read a textbook, understand the diagrams, and then like ace the test. It's not just matching keywords, it's like it's actually thinking about what it's seeing. Like almost like
Well,
a student, right?
right.
Studying a textbook.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
And that's a big difference between Qwen2-VL and, a lot of the older AI models. It's not just recognizing things, it's actually trying to understand how those things relate to each other, and then it can even use that understanding to solve problems. It's a whole other level of like AI cognition.
It really does sound like it. So I guess thinking bigger picture now, what does this kind of ability, this visual intelligence really mean for AI going forward? We talked about self-driving cars, robots, but it seems like there's so much potential here.
Oh, absolutely.
No.
This research, it isn't just about, some flashy new trick. It's about pushing the boundaries of what AI can even do, period. Qwen2-VL is a massive step towards AI that can actually understand and perceive the world in a much richer, more nuanced way, like closer to how humans do it.
So are we talking about AI that can actually see the world, not just like process data from a camera or sense?
Exactly. Like imagine self-driving cars that don't just see a stop sign, but can read it, understand what it means right there in the moment. Or, robots that can actually work alongside humans in really complicated environments, picking up on visual cues, understanding instructions. It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah, it's really incredible to think about how this could change things, and not just in one industry. And you mentioned earlier that Qwen2-VL is open weight, which seems like a big deal. Opening this tech up for others to use, to build on. What are your thoughts on that?
It's huge. Being open and collaborative, that's how we're going to move AI forward faster.
Hmm.
Think of it like giving these incredibly smart people all over the world this powerful new toolkit. Who knows what amazing applications we'll see when more people can get their hands on this technology.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be following this stuff. This Qwen2-VL research paper, it's like a sneak peek into the future of AI, A future where it's less about these cold, rigid algorithms and more about systems that can actually see and understand the world just like we do.
And not just understand it, but interact with it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a huge shift from just passively analyzing things to actually engaging with the visual world.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive, and I really appreciate you breaking it all down for us. This Qwen2-VL research is definitely something we'll all want to keep our eyes on. So for all of you listening, if you're interested in AI, and really who isn't these days, check it out. It's worth digging into.
I agree. It's a really interesting look at how AI is evolving, how it's learning to see the world around it.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive. But before we go, one last thing for everyone to think about. If AI can now see and understand the world more like we do, what does that mean for creativity? Could we see AI that can not only analyze art, but actually make it? It's something to chew on. Thanks for joining us and keep exploring the amazing world of artificial intelligence.